Start with the acknowledgement of treaties of peace and friendship. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Wolastoqey, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqey title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. Thank you. Wallen. Next is the oath of office. We do hereby accept the office of council and will diligently, faithfully, and impartially discharge to the best of our ability the duties of the office as may be imposed upon us by law. Next is the adoption of the agenda. You have any changes?
I'd like to remove the third item under my name, if I could.
Okay. Any others? Do we have a mover?
I move to adopt the agenda with changes.
Second?
I'll second it.
On the question, all those in favor say aye. Motion passed. Next, statements of conflicts of interest. If any council members have conflict of interest, just pass in the appropriate form. No presentations, business. Deputy Mayor Burke.
I attended a meeting with the RCMP, and they gave me a presentation of which I emailed both copies to council. But there are a couple of things that I would like to state publicly so that the public is aware of maybe what the RCMP do and maybe pass on some information that they may not have been aware of. The RCMP employ 1,254 people in the province. 856 are regular members. There are 398 non-uniformed employees. 91% of the employees are bilingual. 37% of the employees are female, and 4.2% of those employees are racial diversity employees. The RCMP, as in the province of New Brunswick, spend about $157 million in salaries and things of that nature. So, they're a strategic part of our economy. The Provincial Policing Service Agreement establishes priorities, and the RCMP deliver policing priorities within the established budget. The province pays 70%, and the federal government pays 30%. The current agreement that is in place with the RCMP will expire on March 31st, 2032. The policing national standards and policy is what they respect. Ability to call on other RCMP resources for assistance with major investigations, emergencies, and national events, and the support from connections to RCMP and federal policing programs. The question can be asked, are they short-staffed? Well, they could always use more members, but more members would allow us to do more work, and more members would also cost more money. What does the RCMP do? The RCMP officers conduct investigations, carry out operations, make arrests, lay charges, patrol, and enforce traffic violations. Like a hospital, they triage calls to ensure we are responding to the most urgent situation first and that we are using our resources appropriately. Every RCMP officer has the basics, for example, 26 weeks basic training, 6 months with a field officer, mandatory training on bias awareness, cultural awareness, and humanity, crisis intervention, and de-escalation. There are various departments and specialties within the RCMP. They have a major crimes unit, they have a police dog services, they have explosive disposal unit, they have a forensic identification services, they have emergency response team, internet child exploitation, underwater recovery teams, crisis negotiations team, and special tactic operations. The Northeastern District, which is headquarters in Bathurst, they cover basically from St. Quentin, Camelton, Bathurst, Lamec, Caraquet, Tracadie, Nigawak, Sunny Corner, Blackville, and Doketown. The district commander here is Superintendent Guy Theriault. They have a basic structure which they follow. You know, just to be sure, cover the, so there is also an opportunity that if you wish to go online and report a crime, they have an online reporting. It's basically called OCR, for online criminal reporting. They also report to the Regional Service Commission, which Beldoon is in Regional Service Commission 3. You know, they establish priorities within the province. So the 2022 provincial priorities are protecting our most vulnerable citizens, combating serious and organized crime, enhancing highway safety, financial planning and accountability, collaboration, and information sharing. Just to compare 2020 to 2021, you know, but their annual, keep in mind that their year goes from April 1st to March 31st. So 2021 and 21-22, when you look at the occurrences of calls that happened, they're down probably another 20%. There were 3,895 calls. Occurrences. There were 1,943 calls for services, and there were 791 criminal offenses. They do rank their top 5 RCMP occurrences. In occurrences, I'll just cover the top moving traffic and non-moving traffic are number 1. The top 5 RCMP calls for service are basically motor vehicle collision and fraud. And the top criminal offenses are fraud and mischief. They had asked for priorities within the communities. You know, the overall consensus in the communities in the 5 priorities were speeding, road safety and traffic enforcement, public safety and safe communities, staff shortages, and property crime and theft. Now, I did request that the issue with Beldoon as far as the top 3 were concerned. Number 1, I had mentioned that we have far too many drug pushers in a small community this size, so they made it very clear that they would address that issue, you know, as it goes. The second one, which in this case, the overall one, number 1 was speeding. Well, I mentioned that was number 2 with us, and the road safety and traffic enforcement became number 3. So just wanted to cover some of those points so that the public was aware of what the RCMP do and some of the things that they do in our community. So, you know, we are extremely fortunate in the sense that the RCMP, you know, we pay a fair amount for our RCMP services, but by the same token, it's like paying insurance. You know, I mentioned all of the units that are within the RCMP. Well, all of those units are at our disposal should we require those services at no charge to the Village of Beldoon. That is because we carry the right contract and we do pay the maximum dollar. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, the only time we would see all of that is if there was a major crime. You know, they did mention that Beldoon is not a high crime rate area, and that is probably a credit to our community and the type of community we live in. So at the end of the day, they believe that Beldoon is a really good place to live and a safe place to live. So that will cover that. The next item I have on there is is to discuss about the gazebo on Riverside Drive. I received a call from the people who are the bird watchers within our community and outlying area. They've made a request, or they would like to see the gazebo that is on Fenderson, I believe. I believe it's on Fenderson, eh? River Road. It's on River Road. So Sunday afternoon, I joined them to look at the gazebo on River Road. You know, it is not too bad as far as when you look at the accessibility. It's not as steep as I thought it would be. There was a lot of brush that was cleared. I'm not sure who cleared it, but it has been cleared. One of the comments that was made was that, you're not allowed to clear trees unless you are 30 meters away from the river. So what is happening with that facility as it sits now, once the foliage comes out on the trees that are in front of it, it will be very difficult for the bird watchers to be able to look out over the marsh because it's all the foliage is on the trees and things of that nature. So one of two issues were requested that maybe a ramp would be made going down from the road down to the gazebo so that it would be accessible without having to truck down a very steep ditch. The other one request was basically to, and I do believe that would need to be wheelchair accessible if we were looking at that. The other request was to move the building to the ball field over in Jacket River area there. I don't know if everybody's aware where that is, but it was a prime location there. It overlooks the Bay of Chaleur, and they were able to, without any difficulty, if the facility was there, to overlook the Bay of Chaleur. So what I would like to propose to council, in the absence of a CAO, is that we do have a public meeting in 2 weeks' time. I would like to maybe touch base with a couple of contractors to ask what the cost would be to build a ramp to the facility so that they could access it there, or ask what the price would be to move it to the other facility. That way, in 2 weeks' time, I could, I could probably present that to council prior to the meeting so that you would have it prior to. But I would like to have that information in council's hands to make a decision as to exactly what we need to do at that meeting, because it would require a motion of council, whether it be to build a ramp or whether it be to move the facility. Council will be required to know what needs to be done. So I'm just going to ask if that is an issue with council, or do you prefer that we let that ride until we have a CAO? I don't know what. I don't mind, say, asking a couple of contractors for a price. That's a very small problem. But with that said, I certainly want to have approval of council to move forward with that, to bring that information forward. So I'm going to ask if there are any objections to that.
I have no objection, but with a ramp, the price of the wood and so on, and the moving, would it maybe not be cheaper to build one in the Jacket River baseball area? Just my thoughts on that.
I could ask that as a third option.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, the price of lumber and everything like that, and moving it, it would probably be quite pricey. So maybe we could build something in that area that would be in cheaper or in that same area, because we don't need power. All we need is basically the gazebo built. Am I right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem. That may be a decent idea, that to present all three: what it costs to build a ramp, what it would cost to move it, what it would cost to have a new facility built over at the ball field. Yeah. Okay. Yep, that's fine.
I believe Scott was working on this prior to him leaving, and I think he had spoke with the Ducks Unlimited because it's like a protected area, and I believe it's possible he may have already gotten quotes on some of that work.
So what do I do from there? I don't have access to that, or do I mean, at this moment in time, I would have
right
to
now,
ask.
we don't have access to anything, so you can get all of the prices you want. We don't have even a treasurer to sign a check to pay them.
No,
So-
but and we're not talking about, by the time that would all be approved and gone out for tender, at the end of the day, our clerk treasurer would have returned. But I'm not talking about doing it. I'm talking about giving council the idea of how much this would cost. Otherwise, how long do we have to wait before we get a CAO or get somebody who's going to do it now? That's why I'm asking.
So what it is you're asking is, do we want you to get prices and bring them forward.
I'm just going to ask a contractor or two. I'll ask two contractors to give me a price of what it would cost to build a ramp from the road to the present site. Then I will ask the contractor what it costs to move the facility from there to the ball field. And then I will ask the contractor to give me an estimate of what it would cost to build a new
Okay, well,
facility.
I think if you're gonna get that information over again, you're probably gonna have to find out what, like through Ducks Unlimited, if we're even allowed to go in there and disturb that area.
Yeah,
So
can do
that may be where you'll need to start.
Yeah,
So,
I can start there.
And can I just add one more thing also? I believe Scott had mentioned a price tag of approximately $30,000 for a ramp and stairs to that gazebo. So that is kind of a high price. But,
I think we discussed this at the last meeting, Scott was here, and he was looking into, he said he couldn't access he was waiting for the snow to go before he could access. It's not that far down the bank. There's a second gazebo also that was built at the same time. This project was started by Bria. I think Joanne was involved with that. Ducks Unlimited was a co-sponsor. The New Brunswick Nature Trust also funded part of it. I think it would be beneficial to look at the original plans, because the project kind of got dropped for some reason. I don't know why. But it was part of a larger tourism package. There were trails that were to be developed. There was a second gazebo. They had talked about boardwalks and stuff. So I think it might be beneficial to look at the original plan. And if you're going to move one of the gazebos, because the one on River Road is in a nice spot, maybe the one on Fenderson Beach could be moved to the ball field. It's a possible option too, because it's not accessible where it is. Nobody can get to it, period. So at least if we could build a set of stairs to the one on River Road and move the one to the ball field, then it can tie in that whole area.
So any objection to that, to getting that information and passing it on to council? Okay, so I'll take care of that. The last item on my agenda here is just a question concerning the roadside cleanup. I did speak with Daryl on the roadside cleanup, because at our, the Royal Canadian Legion members, when we met at our monthly meeting, the question was asked as to why McAllister, Mac, and Carr Street were not serviced by this operation, the roadside cleanup. A couple of our members who live in that area advised that they were more than willing to do that area, provided the Legion was recognized as doing the service. Now, if you look on the list, the Legion already does the Noel Road, but there are 3 or 4 other places on that list that are doing 2 sections, that type of thing. So based on the budget that our clerk treasurer just added as a footnote, maybe at the public meeting on Monday, I will bring forward a motion asking that council approve the addition of McAllister, Mac, and Carr, and that the Royal Canadian Legion will organize the membership to service that area. So council can make the decision at that time, unless they want to tell me right now that it's not going to be something they want to look at. So that's just for your information, and that's where I stand.
Okay. Councillor Carmichael?
for me, the strategic planning meeting, since we do not have a CAO in place and our work schedule clerk treasurer is out for a bit, I think we're going to have to reschedule that to the committee of hold of June and try that again. We can't do anything at this time. So I would ask Nicole if she would mind adding that to the minutes for June. Thank you.
Councillor Guitar Maintenant.
Okay, my first one is the roadside cleanup on June 4th. I think it's very important as part of council that we make ourselves visible, if not on a team that's helping clean up, at least at the rec center. This is an important day for our community, so I think that we all need to be involved. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there. And it's June the 4th or June the 11th is the rain date, okay, for the cleanup. Okay? And the second one is the Events Committee meeting, which is on May 9th, next Monday at 7 p.m. We are looking for volunteers to help out with our Beldoon Days this year. And we're also seeking someone who might be interested in taking over the Mackerel Derby, which is a major event. But if anybody's interested in volunteering, please come out to the meeting on Monday at 7 p.m.
I'm just wondering about the mackerel derby. Are we allowed to fish on the shore this year with all the new regulation? Eh? You're not allowed to fish, eh?
I thought it was for sport. You could maybe, commercial you can't. No, you can't do it? Okay, forget the Mackerel Derby.
I heard too that you could, that you were allowed so many off the beach.
Yeah. That's, I heard that as well.
I think we need to check into that and make
Yeah,
sure.
we did, someone did look into it, but if there is a conflict, we will have it straightened out, I guess. But other than that, that same night, we are planning the Phantom Ship story also at the beach that night as well. Something will happen on that Friday night with the Mackerel Derby or without it, okay? Anyways, and the third item I have removed.
Okay, administration, there's nothing, closed session, adjournment, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I move that the meeting is adjourned at 7:21.
Seconder,
I'll second it.
on the question, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed, meeting adjourned.